All right, my goal today is to help you feel ready for your test tomorrow. And this test is going to be over 5.1 through 5.4. For the first problem, I want you to write down this original problem on your board, solve the proportion, and then tell me which method you used. Okay, so how many of you would say that you used mental math? Mental math is definitely the fastest way. Our goal right here is to figure out what the y is. So we're working from the left to the right to try to get from a 36 to a y. In order to be able to do that, you have to see how did you get from a 54 to a 9. There's a missing link. Guys, what was the missing link? Okay, a lot of people on your quiz yesterday just said 6, but tell me, what about it? I have to divide by 6 because it's going from something bigger to something smaller. I am dividing by 6, which means in the top I have to do 36 divided by 6. Class, what is 36 divided by 6? 6. So the correct answer is y equals 6. And class, which way did I just solve it? Mental math. How many of you solved it a different way than mental math? Okay, for those of you who solved it a different way, did you still get y equals 6? Very good. Okay, so this is also a good way that you can double check because there's multiple methods and you should end up with the correct answer the same way. Okay, so question number 2 here says, what is a comparison of two quantities called? Here's an example that I've told you before, like 1/2 to 3. Okay, we've also said you could write it 1/2 to 3. What was the other way we could do it? 1/2 divided by 3. All of those are ways that we're comparing two quantities. Does this help you? What is this called, guys? A ratio. Okay. Tomorrow on your test, there will be a vocab section. So I want you to go back to your green review notes that we had. There was a whole vocab section at the top. There will be a large portion of your test tomorrow that you have to know these math terms, okay? Question number 3 says, what is a ratio of two quantities using different units called? This is called a rate. For this next one, we are solving the proportion. Remember, a proportion is two ratios that are set equal to each other, okay? In this case, you cannot use mental math to try to figure this out, all right? Instead, I think the best method is probably going to be to use cross products. Here's where a lot of people messed up on their quiz yesterday. They looked at that and they said, okay, I think it's 8 times x. You are multiplying that 4 times x plus 2. What do I need to do to find that answer, guys? Distributive property, okay? So in order to find this, you have to multiply the 4 by everything inside the parentheses. Now I'm going to drop this down, and we also will multiply it 10 times 2. How many of you would say you now remember how to do that? Okay, hands are down. Guys, what's 4 times x? 4x. What's 4 times 2? Okay, so we're going to add 8. If your board doesn't look like mine does right now, I want you to erase it, okay? 10 times 2 equals 20. Now remember, we want to keep the 4 and the x together as long as possible, so what should I get rid of first on the left side, class? The 8. How do I get rid of add by 8? Subtract by 8. What you do to one side? Okay, you've got to be fair and do it to the other side. Just the girls, what is 20 minus 8? 12. Boys, how do I get x by itself? Divide what?
4.
Divide by 4 on both sides. Anybody wearing a sweater? What is the correct answer?
3.
X equals 3. Class, what method did we just use to do this? We had to use cross products. All right, for the next one, we're going to tell whether or not the quantities are proportional by finding the value of the ratio. So I want you guys to find out what the value is for each of those to see how many miles you get per gallon. Okay, guys, whenever trying to find the value of the ratio, what's the key word of what we have to do? Divide. You take the first one and divide it by the second one. So this first one, when you do 135 divided by 15, girls, what do you get? 9 is correct. Boys, take the next one, 90 divided by 10, and what do you get? 9. Just row 1. How do I find the answer for the next value? Divide. 72 divided by 12, what do you get? 6. Finally, class, what is 22.5 divided by 4.5? 5. Looking at this right here, are all of those equal? So the question is this proportional, yes or no?
No.
A lot of people yesterday on their quiz forgot to answer the question. You've got to tell me yes if it's correct or no if it's not correct. Okay, for the next one, what compares a quantity to one unit of another? Here's what I want you to really focus on, because a lot of you are kind of just interchanging the different words we have and just writing something down. I want you to think through it. This is the key word, 1 unit. Guys, what thing did I say needs to have a denominator of 1? Do you remember that? A unit rate. So the key word here is unit, and 1 is going to be a unit rate. All right, for the next question, it says, tell whether or not the rates are equivalent. There are 2 different ways that you guys could do this one, and I don't care which method you use. How many of you would say that you used cross products when you did this problem? Okay, so it would be 60 feet to 2.5 minutes equals, remember I'm making a proportion, 2 fractions that equal each other, 85 feet per 3.4 minutes. You've got to be careful when you do something like this. Notice I have feet per minute. I have to have feet per minute on both sides. If I were to use this and use cross products, I am multiplying 60 times 3.4 equals what I cross or diagonally here, multiply it together, 85 times 2.5. If you did it this way, class, what was 60 times 3.4? 204. What's 85 times 2.5?
212.5.
212.5. Class, does that equal each other? No, which means they are not equivalent. How many of you would say you found it by using the unit rate? If you did, you could see 60 feet for 2.5 minutes. I want it as a unit rate. Remember, that has 1 unit in the denominator, so I want per minute. If I divided by 2.5 on top and bottom, I would see this one is 24 feet per minute. Now I have to figure out the second one. So I've got 85 feet for every 3.4 minute. How do I get that denominator of 1, class? Divide by the denominator itself. Divide by 3.4 on top and bottom, and you will see that's 25 feet per minute. Are those the same thing? Are they equivalent? No. So you can also show that way that those rates are not equivalent. All right, so question number 8 is asking us to find the unit rate. Remember, the unit rate, we just talked about it. It's going to have a denominator of 1, okay? And it's really important to know unit rates must have units attached. So check your answer to see, do you have units attached? Okay, guys, the key word with this chapter, how do we find our answers?
Divide.
We are going to divide. The first thing, I want you to be careful with these units. 1/2 of a mile for every 16th of a gallon. Now, as I said before, I don't want my denominator to be a 1/16th. I want it to be a denominator of what? 1. Unit rate has a 1 in the denominator, okay? So in order to do this, this means 1/2 divided by 1/16th. What should I do now, class? KFC. Keep the first one, flip the second one, and change the operation. Can I cross reduce?
Yes.
What's it become? An 8 and a 1. Multiply that across, and what do you get?
8 gallons.
8. Now, think about it. If I have 8 miles, then my units over here are going to be 8 miles per 1 what? Gallon. Okay? So for every gallon, you're going to make it 8 miles. Okay, so for this one, we do have a recipe for modeling clay, and I only want you to compare 2 things, the salt to the flour. How much salt is there, class?
1/2 cup.
Okay, so I have 1/2. 2, how much flour is there?
2 cups.
2, very good. Okay, that's one way to write a ratio. How else could I write a ratio?
1/2 divided by 2.
Okay, I could do 1/2 with the word 2, just like that. Okay, and what was the third way?
1/2 divided by 2.
1/2 over 2 or divided by 2. All right, next thing I want you to do is find the value of the ratio. Hey guys, do you remember how to find the value of a ratio? Yes. What do?
Divide.
You divide. You have to divide the first thing divided by the second thing. A lot of people looked at that and they're like, oh, 1/2 of 2 is 1. And they told me the value of the ratio was 1. Here's the deal. Work it out, okay? 1/2 divided by 2. I cannot do that. So what do I have to do? KFC. 1/2 times 1/2. A lot of people got this, and then they told me the answer was 1/2. Let's work this out, guys. Multiply the numerators. 1 times 1 is? 1. What is 2 times 2? 4. So what's the value of my ratio? 1/4. This is what Halen said. The amount of salt is 1/4 the amount of flour. Notice what she did. We compared the salt first, so she put that first in her interpretation. We compared the flour second, so that went second in her interpretation. And you're interpreting, what in the world does this value of the ratio mean? And that's why she put it in there. Everyone, let's read her interpretation together. The amount of salt is 1/4 the amount of flour. All right, so guys, find the missing values in the ratio table. How do I figure out what the missing value is going to be? Divide. Okay, so if you remember, if I am working, I've got the first, the second, and the third. If I am working from the top to the bottom, I will always divide. So I'm going to take the first thing that I have there. 4 divided by 1/2. What do I have to do now? KFC. That means 4 times 2/1. Guys, what's 4 times 2? 8. So what's the value of my ratio? 8. Now remember, that means it's going to be 8 all the way across. All right, guys, for this next one, I'm working from the bottom to the top, okay? Because you can see I know 1/4, but I am trying to figure out what the answer would be to get to the top. What do I have to do working from the bottom to the top, class? Multiply. So I take that first one, 1/4, and multiply it times 8. I can cross reduce, so what's the answer? 2 is the correct answer. Okay, guys, I am working from the top to the bottom, right? Because I know the 6, but I'm trying to get down to the bottom. If I'm working from the top to the bottom of a ratio table, what do I have to do? Divide. 6 divided by 8. A lot of you multiplied and told me the answer was 48. Now here's the deal. 6/8. A lot of people just stuck it into their calculator and then they figured out, oh, 0.75. Here's what I want you to notice. This is a fraction. This is a fraction. So guess what this needs to be? A fraction. So let's just reduce instead what 6/8 would be. Divide by 2 on top, divide by 2 on bottom. What's the answer? 3/4 would be it. Okay, now, a lot of people forgot on their quiz how to write equivalent ratios. Remember, we no longer need the value of the ratio in our table, so pretend it's not there. If you need to, take a pencil and draw one line through it. Then when we are comparing, we're comparing the top number to the bottom number. How many cups of milk per how many cups of flour? The first one would be 4 to 1/2. What would the next one be, class? 2 to 1/4. What would the final one be? 6 to 3/4. And that's how you write equivalent ratios. All right, we're going to do one last problem today. Write down this answer. What are 2 ratios that are set equal to each other called? All right, final question of today is going to be a vocab word. What are 2 ratios that are set equal to each other called? Okay, so we've got like 1/4 is set equal to 2/8. This would be called a proportion. All right, I hope that this is helpful to you. Remember, please go back over your notes. Really look at those vocab words to help you study for your test tomorrow.